Hi, I'm Donna Warren with the Critical Thinking Center at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and this is the first in a series of videos about how to evaluate arguments. So first, when we say argument, what do we mean? For our purposes, an argument isn't a dispute or a fight, but it's basically a unit of reasoning that tries to establish that one claim, which we often call the conclusion, is at least probably true by citing other claims as evidence. So arguments essentially try to rationally convince us of things. An argument is good if it succeeds in doing that, if it does give us reason to think that the conclusion is at least probably true. An argument's bad if it doesn't succeed in doing that, if it doesn't give us good reason to think that the conclusion is at least probably true. So here is a sample argument. The conclusion is Leslie is a Martian. I've written that up there. And the reasons to believe it are down here. Leslie enjoys astronomy, and anyone who enjoys astronomy must be a Martian. So what do you think? Is that argument good? Do you think that this unit of reasoning has established that it's at least probably true that Leslie is a Martian? If you want to, you can pause the video right now and just think about that. So, what did you decide? I think that this argument is probably bad. In fact, I know it's certainly bad. This argument does not give us good reason to think that it's more likely true than not that Leslie's a Martian. But why not? Where is the problem? Let's see if we can diagnose this. So again, you can pause the video if you want and just ask yourself, what's the problem with this argument? To me, it looks like the problem is right here. Anyone who enjoys astronomy must be a Martian. That's false. Lots of people enjoy astronomy, and that does not make them Martians. So what we've learned is the first important principle of evaluating an argument. When we are looking at an argument, we can take a look at a premise and ask ourselves the question, is that true? Now, obviously, sometimes that question is going to be easier to answer than other times, but that's a good question to just bear in mind. If an argument is taking something for granted, if it's a premise, we can ask, is it true? And if the answer is no, or probably not, then the line of reasoning that contains that premise is bad. Okay, what's a line of reasoning? A line of reasoning is essentially a path to the conclusion. So this argument, as you can see, has only one line of reasoning. There's only one path to the conclusion. So because this line of reasoning, this argument just has one line of reasoning, the argument's bad, right? Okay, let's take a look at another argument. What about this one? Leslie is a librarian. Leslie is highly literate and very organized. And anyone who is highly literate and very organized must be a librarian. Ask yourself that key premise question of both of those premises. Is it true? Do you think Leslie is highly literate and very organized? Do you think it is true that anyone who's highly literate and very organized must be a librarian? I'll give you a minute to think about that. You can pause the video here if you want. Okay, what do you think? Well, I think we can assume for the sake of discussion that Leslie is highly literate and very organized. But anyone who's highly literate and very organized must be a librarian? No, that's not true. I mean, I know lots of people who are highly literate and very organized, but they're not a librarian. So what does that mean of this argument as a whole? Well, it's bad. But here's the important point. Do we know on the basis of deciding that this is a bad argument that Leslie is not a librarian? Can we conclude that she's not? I mean, in the Martian argument, we kind of knew going in that Leslie's probably not going to be a Martian, right? Is Leslie probably not going to be a librarian because we have this bad argument for Leslie being a librarian? No. Leslie could still be a librarian. All we've decided when we've said that this argument's bad is that it has not given us good reason to think that Leslie is a librarian. Could she still be a librarian? Sure. Might we have other reasons to think that she's a librarian? Absolutely. But whatever reasons we might have, if they're good reasons, it's not that, right? That's not a good reason to think that she's a librarian. So this is a key point. If we decide that an argument is bad, what does that tell us about the conclusion? Nothing. We should not, on the basis of deciding that an argument is bad, conclude that its conclusion is false. We shouldn't decide that a conclusion is false just because the argument supporting that conclusion is bad. So that is part one of how to evaluate arguments. There is one more question we need to ask of premises, and we'll be seeing that next time. Until then, hope you're doing well. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.